Hello and welcome to Lunch with the Editor. Today we discuss the big drama that is going on at the Delhi Assembly. Arvind Kejriwal and his Aam Aadmi Party are trying to show to the world how easy it is to tamper with the electronic voting machines. Well, we still don't know whether it is easy or not, but the attempt is to establish that whoever you press the vote for, finally the vote goes to one party and not to the rest. That is, even if you press your vote for X, Y or Z, the vote can still go to X instead of Y and Z. So this is a possibility. This is a possibility that Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party have been discussing for a very long time. We still don't know. We still don't know whether it is true or not. We need to find out. We need to have extensive experiments with the electronic voting machines to find out whether it is true or not. But as of now, he has raised a very big issue that this can be done, and his partymen have actually brought an electronic voting machine to the Delhi Assembly. And right now, as I speak, see, the lunch with the editor got delayed and it has got beyond the lunch hour because we were all anxiously waiting to understand what is happening, because he had promised, Arvind Kejriwal had promised us that he is going to blast a big bomb in Delhi Assembly, and this is the big bomb. And we all thought that it could be a big counter to Kapil Misra's allegations, a big counter to the corruption charges, but no, he is countering the corruption charges again with the EVM tampering charges against the central government, against the BJP, against the Modi government. So how far it is true or not, we still are not able to we are merely watching television. It's running on television right there, and we are merely watching the television and trying to understand what Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party are trying to establish. So what they are trying to say is that this is a possibility that the machines can be tampered with, and if you wire the machines wrongly, and the votes need not go to the parties for whom the people have polled the votes, but it can go to a party which had tampered with the machine. So if I have tampered with the machine and you have voted for X, Y, Z, but still the vote will go in my favor. So this is roughly what the Aam Aadmi Party and roughly what the Delhi government's, not exactly the Delhi government, but this is happening within the Legislative Assembly, so we cannot call it an executive action. It is totally an attempt by the Aam Aadmi Party MLAs. So one of the Aam Aadmi Party MLA is explaining the phenomenon. We still don't know whether it is true or not, but it is getting more and more intriguing. It is getting more and more disturbing for the larger polity and the democratic credentials of our nation. Because if the EVMs can really be tampered with, if the entire process can be manipulated, then it is not a very comfortable situation for India as a nation and for our electoral politics. So this has to be taken up very, very seriously. I hope the Election Commission would immediately, probably today itself or maybe tomorrow, would immediately come up with all the answers for the questions that Aam Aadmi Party and the Delhi MLAs are raising, because these are not allegations. These are not allegations by one party against another party. These are very serious questions that undermine our constitution. These are very serious questions that undermine our very existence as a democratic nation. And these questions need to be answered by none other than the constitutional authority which is mandated with the job of conducting elections, which is the Election Commission of India. So having said that, I would like to underline that it is not as if we are endorsing these doubts. It's not as if we know that whether these questions are right or wrong. We don't know. It is the job of the Election Commission of India to explain to us whether these questions are right or wrong. So that is one of the big questions. As you all know, the background to this controversy is not really EVMs. The background to this controversy is actually a big implosion that has happened in Aam Aadmi Party. One of the senior cabinet ministers of Aam Aadmi Party government Kapil Mishra was sacked by Arvind Kejriwal, and immediately after getting sacked, Mishra had made very serious charges of corruption against Arvind Kejriwal and his closest lieutenant and the most important minister, one of the most important ministers, Satyendra Jain. So, saying that Satyendra Jain had given Arvind Kejriwal a bribe of 2 crores, and not just that, that Satyendra Jain had favored Arvind Kejriwal's brother-in-law, Bansal. Unfortunately, Mr. Bansal passed away yesterday morning. So it's a terribly murky drama that is playing out in Delhi. I mean, not just in the Legislative Assembly, but outside as well. Charges, counter charges. This one thing we can say for certain: this party, Aam Aadmi Party, had come out of a movement against corruption. So where are we seeing them now? They are at the receiving end. Exactly what Arvind Kejriwal had done against Robert Vadra, against various other politicians, against various corporate houses. So the chickens have come home to roost. Now the same thing is happening against Arvind Kejriwal, and he has countered all these charges with a charge against electronic voting machine. So that is roughly what is happening as far as the Delhi Assembly controversy is concerned. What is happening in Delhi is concerned. Now I have with me my colleague Ushinur Majumdar. We are also trying to discuss another constitutional impasse, another big constitutional controversy. A High Court judge had not just attacked the Supreme Court, but had even passed a sentence of punishment, rigorous imprisonment against the Chief Justice of India. This is not a normal situation at all. Is it, Ushinur?
Yeah, it is definitely not a normal situation. Just to update viewers in case they don't know, in today's judgment, the Supreme Court has ordered an arrest and they've sentenced Justice Kannan to serve 6 months prison time for contempt of court. And there is also a slight media gag, so we won't be, just to explain that the media is barred from carrying any further comments by Justice Kannan. Of course, that's keeping in mind, I mean, one way of looking at that is trying to silence him, but on the other side, if you look at the sequence of events that Justice Kannan has been up to, writing letters, passing sentences against sitting, the Chief Justice of India as well as other senior judges of the Supreme Court, I mean, he has been doing this with regularity. He sent them a legal notice asking for X amount of crores. Then again, he said that they should appear at his court while he had been summoned to the Supreme Court. So in all, he has made a mockery of the system of justice. Definitely, because this may be on the administrative side. It is not exactly a judicial issue, but he has made a total, farcical thing of it, because this is one of the most important pillars of our democracy, completely independent. That is the way the system is built. And instead of going through the established way that he should have approached the Chief Justice, whatever complaints he had, some of them may be valid, including the ones which he had raised as far back as in 2011 while he was a sitting judge of the Madras High Court. He should have probably gone through the correct channel and done the right thing. Again, a number of these complaints are frivolous. So there seems to be a mix of issues that he has raised at various stages, and the manner in which he has done and
at times, while he was a member, while he was a judge of the Madras High Court, when he raised issues of discrimination, he was treated with kid gloves, because at that point in time, some people even mistook him for some sort of an activist judge. But now we realize that he was completely bonkers.
Well, that is one view. At the same time, that's because that's what I was saying. Some of the complaints were frivolous. In fact, one of the complaints, if I'm not mistaken, was how he had gone to either a wedding or some sort of a function with other judges. There was another judge sitting next to him, another High Court brother judge, and this other judge happened to raise his leg, sitting next to him, and it touched Justice Kannan's leg. So he wrote a long letter about that. You see, so these are very trivial things which he's put up. And then, of course, there is a very serious thing, because once the complaints that he has made, he said that this is an atrocity under the SC/ST Act. Now, that takes on a very different kind of color altogether. That's caste-based discrimination. At the same time, we should also go back to his whole selection process. the judges who had initially selected in the collegium, they themselves have in a way disowned him, whether it is Justice Balakrishnan.
Justice Balakrishnan was the Chief Justice of India who actually picked him up.
Yes, and it was, the recommendation was made by Justice A.K. Ganguly, who of course in a report to the Hindu some time back, he had kind of discarded. He said that, I had done this so as to accommodate more people from the Dalit community into the judiciary, which is of course definitely a need. I mean, we know the high number of upper caste judges, and this has been regularly criticized in media and in public. So to change that, Justice Ganguly had done that, but probably the candidate may not have been suitable.
See, again, this brings to the fore a grave issue. I mean, one, there's a clear breakdown of the constitutional mechanisms through which judiciary functions, undoubtedly.
Absolutely.
That is number one. Number two, it also brings to the fore the question, how are judges selected? Is there a fundamental problem with the selection of judges? So coming back to the issue of the breakdown of the constitutional mechanism, see here, probably the right way to have dealt with this would have been impeachment.
See, impeachment
That too triggered by the judiciary.
Absolutely, yes, possibly, but that would have taken some time. So this should have been done much earlier. So they did try to sort out things. Now, speaking with senior advocates as well as speaking with sitting and retired judges, now what their opinion is, I can just give you a gist of it. Of course, these are all informal conversations. But what most of them seem to feel is that this should have been nipped in the bud much earlier. When he was shifted to Calcutta.
That is exactly the point. Our problem, the way in which judiciary deals with its problems, is just to transfer a problematic judge from one X bench to Y bench.
Absolutely.
See, here in this case of Justice Karnan, when he became sort of a big problem for his brother judges and for the Chief Justice in Chennai, he was simply transferred out to Calcutta.
Right.
That is not how. I mean, that is like you're trying to hide your problems away.
Of course, I mean that's just a change in geographic location. I mean the system and the issues that he has raised, whether valid or not, would exist in the other courts also, and he would have to. And this problem did happen because when he went to Calcutta, then there was almost like a verbal duel between him and another sitting judge in Calcutta High Court, after which he was separated and put into a single bench. So you see, the problem did persist. Now here, as Mr. K.K. Venugopal, senior advocate, as he has also been pointing out, that they could have waited till he retired, which the retirement is in June. But again, somehow this is where people would lose faith in Justice Karnan, because you see, he himself did not let the matter rest at all. At every stage, he has tried to kind of stoke the fire. At every stage.
All the time.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, sending a notice to Supreme Court judges, these are things which are unheard of. Because again, as far as I know, very senior jurists in India, they reached out to the Chief Justice as well as to other judges to try and settle this issue between judges, outside the courtrooms. And the problem with that was that while they would be willing to keep quiet, Justice Karnan was not. So, and then there has to be some sort of parity, because today a common citizen, if he ever dared to do something like this against a judge, I mean, what they would also face no less than contempt.
So going by today's judgment, today's order of the Supreme Court, for the first time in the history of Indian judiciary, a sitting judge of the High Court, a sitting judge of a High Court will be sent to jail.
Absolutely.
Which is...
And he'll go kicking and screaming, as he's shown us.
Well, I can't expect Justice Karnan to walk coolly into a waiting police van. But the thing is that I mean, this is such a momentous event in the history of Indian judiciary. A sitting judge of a High Court being sentenced to a jail term of 6 months. Where will he have to serve this? In Calcutta or
possibly,
in Delhi?
I think possibly in Calcutta itself. Because West Bengal, I mean, transiting is another headache. They haven't said that part of the order is not yet out, the full order, so we don't know. But it's definitely going. It's most likely going to be Presidency Jail, or I mean, one of the central jails in Calcutta.
This is absolutely unbelievable. A sitting judge of a High Court having to serve a jail sentence, and that too for contempt of court. Because primarily what he has done is, I mean, his crime or his misdemeanor, his wrongdoing is nothing but contempt of his seniors, contempt of his own profession or contempt of his own office, I would say.
Absolutely, and the judicial system itself. Because I mean, come on, a high court. See, some again, like just to come back to some of the things that he had said. Now judicial corruption is something that people do talk about. It is something that is said in hushed whispers. It is something that often comes up. Sometimes we report about it also when we have facts and circumstances that we have enough evidence. But here he has thrown out a lot of interesting things, but he has zero evidence to back it up.
No, it is not just a question of evidence. You cannot be a judge of your own case.
Absolutely.
See, I mean, the very basic presumption of justice is that if you are a litigant, if you are a complainant, then you have to move another forum.
Absolutely.
So in his case, all this while, instead of making it a properly a systematic kind of an appeal to a greater authority.
But in this case, not only did he try to approach another forum, what he did is, if you remember, he wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, which is what triggered off the contempt proceedings in the first place. When he wrote a letter in January. Now, that is also not the way. But then what is the system? That is also something that has to be clarified. I mean, this is also a precedence in which the judges in itself, they have to have some sort of a grievance settlement mechanism also to set up. Of course, what we see in Justice Karnan's issue is he's crossing several lines.
It's primarily an inflated sense of hurt. It's not as if there has been a great grievous injury to Justice Karnan's office or his person.
Doesn't seem so. I mean, but though that is what he's been saying without really proving it in his old letters. But again, as you say, the way he's gone about it, it began much earlier. He called for press conferences in his chambers back in Madras High Court. So those things, they were an indication of what had to happen. And even more than the contempt thing, see, there is
I mean, it is not as if the lordships would ever listen to lesser mortals, but I have a very humble suggestion to make. That is, please don't transfer problematic judges.
That is definitely
if a judge creates a problem at any level, whether it is at the lower judiciary level, whether it is a magistrate, whether it is a city magistrate, metropolitan magistrate, whether it is a district judge, whether it is a judge of the High Court, please don't transfer him out. Please deal with him.
You must deal with him, definitely. If you remember, there has also been cases where during elevation to the SC, there were questions raised about certain High Court judges, and then they decided they were kept as High Court judges. If you are not fit for the SC, what makes you on some sort of corruption or other issues,
exactly,
which are also not revealed to us,
exactly,
then how does that qualify you to remain in as a High Court judge also?
I would say that Karnan sort of tore away the veil of secrecy.
Absolutely.
He sort of brought to the fore what actually happens. The kind of frustrations that they have, the way they treat each other, their grievances,
But here, sir, there is another good example of a disgruntled judge that you could say, quote unquote disgruntled, that may not be the same, which is Justice Chalamishwar. I mean, he also had some valid points regarding the collegiate practice, and he went about it in a much saner way. He said that I will not go for meetings, please circulate the files. So you see, he's changing the custom. So that is a more acceptable way that one could say.
I would say more balanced way, because when you circulate the note, when you are alone dealing with a note, then you are not being influenced by your colleagues and by your senior people. Then you can you can be more neutral. You can say you can write what you feel like. You can write what you want. You are not looking at another person's face and coming to a conclusion.
And it is a matter of record. So
yes.
What you say today, there is no way that if it is manipulated or if you are somehow influenced or something, it is clear on the record from that day. So Justice Karnan did not opt for some sort of a more balanced approach.
I think that's a very good example. That's a brilliant example that Ushnur pointed out, that dissent is always allowed. Even within Indian judiciary, it is not as if dissent is crushed. Dissent is not crushed. you can have a different view. Even at the highest level, at the level of the Supreme Court, you can say that I don't agree with a certain way in which you do things, but at the same time continue to be part of the system. In Justice Kannan's instance, it is tragic. I would say, I would use the word, it is tragic that a sitting judge of Indian High Court would have to spend time in jail for bringing in ignominy to his own office, to the entire judicial system of the country. So that's all that we have today. I mean, even while we wind up, even while I sign out, I know that the drama, the EVM drama is still being played out. Arvind Kejriwal hasn't spoken yet. Manish Sisodia hasn't spoken yet. These are only, I mean, first it was Alka Lamba and then a couple of other MLAs who are talking about the issue of tampering with the electronic voting machines. So let us see whether Manish Sisodia or his leader Arvind Kejriwal, whether he has anything more to say, and whether there are greater revelations. So we'll be back with you with the next edition of Lunch with the Editor. Thanks. Thank you for joining.